What you are about to see is one session of a series of remote viewing sessions that were conducted in September and October 2024, where the focuses are on domestic military activity that will occur in the continental United States in the months of December 2024, January 2025, and February 2025. The remote viewer for this session is Intysam. For each focus, the target is the most important event that would describe the level of domestic engagement of the U.S. military in that particular month. The world is in such a precarious state currently, with the war in the Middle East involving Israel and its neighbors, and the war in Europe involving Ukraine and Russia, both threatening to spill into wider conflicts, plus the political polarization in the United States. It seemed natural to ask if anything might happen that could affect the deployment of military resources within the United States. Many wars only affect the United States indirectly, as they take place in distant lands. But it is unclear if that will always be the case. So we decided to take a look with a Farsight Deep News project. We have results from 4 remote viewers for this project, and we hope to publish all of them as single sessions before the start of December 2024. And as with all of our Deep News sessions, they will appear on both FARSIGHTPrime.com and YouTube. There are no advertisements on FARSIGHTPrime.com, and captions are offered there in multiple languages. To be honest, I do not understand the results for this project. None of this was expected. All of the sessions contain data that seem disturbing, to say the least. But we are faithful to our mission here at Farsight, and we publish our raw data for all to see, no matter what. We learn with each project along with everyone else.
Hi everyone, welcome to Deep News. Here we have Intysam, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Intysam, just before we go into everything, you do not know the nature of this target?
Nope.
All right, so let's start off with your initial target perceptions. I see on page 4 you started describing some stuff, so why don't you just take it away, and when you're done, I'll chime in.
Yeah. So my initial perception of this environment is a base surface with slightly irregular topography. I have man-made land that looks mostly level, a city with subjects inside and outside of the structures. I have a crowd here as well. One non-surface structure above this base surface with subjects inside, bright light, moderate foliage level. I also have energetics. So I have like a fire, heat, or maybe like explosive type of energetics. And that seems like there's also smoke and burning smells that's coming along with that, because I was finding it kind of hard to breathe in this environment. Lots of movement by subjects and objects. I'm getting loud voices, blaring, booming sounds. Temperature here feels warm, and when I probe into like what here is the most dominant element, I'm picking up that it's a crowd of subjects. And then on the next page, that's a depiction of this environment with the energetics, structures on, you know, either side of this like road type thing, and then a non-surface structure. So that's just, yeah, my first perception. I did a few flash sketches. So on the next flash sketch, I have this irregular topography with structures in the background. I have a crowd of subjects. So there's subjects in the background, but it feels like at this point, I also was picking up a central subject in the foreground. And then my last, I don't know if, yeah, no, one of my other flash sketches was a structure that I deducted like a political structure because it looks like that to me. And I'm getting a well-furnished room with a focused gathering inside. There's this walkway with like lots of subjects, kind of like walking, you know, leading up to this main structure. And then inside there's, again, a focused gathering, just tons of subjects. And then moving on, I'm picking up, it was just an interesting sketch because I'm picking up a few subjects, but then there's a subject here that is holding, I guess, I don't know, it's like a, it looks like a weapon. It looks like a gun. I'm just going to call it what it looks like. But yeah, subject kind of seems maybe a little militant. And then there's other subjects that are just crowded watching the subject.
Fascinating. Okay, so what happened with your focus one?
Focus one, I was perceiving lots of subjects gathered around a specific area in this environment. I'm getting lots of sounds and noises. There's some energetics. There's like fire and heat energetics here. I get a sense that there's some central subjects or there's a subject of focus that are here. So I deducted like a political rally here. Looking around, I'm picking up dim light with like a reddish glow type of tint in the air. The energy feels like there's unrest. So I deducted war or unrest just because it's just that kind of energy that I'm picking up. There are certain subjects that are inside of a structure and they look quite formal. They're mostly male. Definitely a dominant structure that feels quite angular shaped to it. And I have a group of subjects inside and another group of subjects that are at the outside of this dominant structure. So next, I went to probing these two different groups that I was picking up here. So I'm just going to do like a collective deep mind probe of what they feel like. So starting with the subjects inside of the structure, it feels like an argumentative environment, lots of different opinions going around. There's a few subjects with very strong opinions here. As a whole, it feels like a high stress or high pressure inside this, with these subjects. Subjects are trying to find a solution or an answer. These subjects have a strong sense of security, a feeling like they'll be all right, or like they got this, whatever this is. They seem powerful, or they seem like leaders, or just I'm getting a political feel to these inside subjects, inside the structure subjects here. Part of them feel like they're actually searching for solutions, but other parts are quite lazy. Like they're just looking for the fastest way out of whatever is happening, whatever is causing them to be here. Now, switching to the subjects that are outside, the collective deep mind probe of those subjects, the subjects have a lot of energy. They're trying to push something forward. They feel a tad aggressive, quite passionate about a certain topic, and they're chanting something like just like those words. They keep repeating. As a whole, these subjects that are outside have a strong unifying factor. And then there's something about them that feels somewhat misguided, or maybe like they're too emotional to see clearly. Yeah. And then while I was doing this, I pick up on a distant group. So this is a group that's not here. They feel far away. And this group feels like it's at quite a distance. There's a few subjects. Some look like they're surrounded by technological objects, others engaging in some sort of activity. I deducted that they're uniformed because I was picking something that felt like they're uniformed. It feels like they're quite a focused group. They have an objective they're wanting to achieve. They feel very organized. They feel like they're trained or possess certain skills or qualities. And all of them are mentally aligned to a common goal or mindset. And I'm also picking up a common leader amongst them.
Fascinating. Okay, so focus 2, what did you get there?
Focus 2, first thing I pick up is tall structures, and the backdrop looks like an urban environment. I'm getting a focused gathering or a crowd here. There's lines of subjects, like they seem organized. So I deducted like a march, and then I get an image of this subject on a raised platform, and then there's subjects on a lower vantage point observing this main subject. Going into a collective deep mind probe, I feel like it's a somber mood here. The subjects feel serious. There's something heavy in terms of like this occasion. It just didn't feel good to me. So I deducted like getting drafted, which is like, oh my God, that's very scary when I think of getting drafted. At this point, things were at some point on this, things are foggy, but I'm feeling like this is an unexpected turn of events, and certain subjects are feeling confused as to why this is taking place. So I then moved to the target event here. All at once is a lot of activity. There's subjects in rapid movement. There's a sense of chaos here. The environment here looks somewhat dilapidated, like there's damage to the structures. It's loud, it's so loud, clamoring, noises. And then as I look around, some areas look empty and like eerie, like it shouldn't look like this. And I'm perceiving energetics at the distance. So I have a little sketch here of this urban environment. There's energetics in the back. I have some subjects. And then I have bright objects in the sky, 2 illuminated bright objects, So, yeah. So those bright illuminated objects, they feel like energetics. So when I probe into the source of those energetics, the source is a group in a distance location. I'm only seeing a few subjects in this immediate location, but the area is kind of like surrounded by foliage. So in this image, I'm showing what looks like a structure that's shooting out energetics. And then there's a few subjects surrounding. There's like an object in the back of them that looks like it's filled with stuff. There's male subjects. They're uniformed, light to tan skin tone, with kind of like, their face is kind of dirty also. The mental state of these subjects feels unusual. So I was like, is it compromised? Kind of feels like their mental state is compromised in some way. But then there's another source of these energetics here. And this source is coming from non-surface structure that is flying overhead and dropping the energetics down to the base surface.
Wow. Okay, so focus 3. What did you get there?
Focus 3 looks like a harsh environment. It looks like this place has been razed to the ground. There's one singular tall structure amongst the rubble, and even that tall structure feels like is not in good condition. I deducted the Nagasaki bomb dome. When the bomb was dropped, there was just one structure that was standing. It feels like this here. There's a specific area that has a notable depression. The land kind of like dips down. And it just feels awful in this place. Whatever this is, it doesn't feel good. And there's like a notable depression in the air. And it feels like people here have lost their lives. Like this is the zenith of an escalated situation, and it feels like the impact of a powerful force. It's terrifying to see these kinds of things, so I deducted an apocalypse. So this is focus 3. I'm gonna move to the target event of focus 3. The event here feels like the escalation of force and dominion. It feels like a chaotic event, objects and non-surface structures flying through the air. Quite a dark and despairing image that I'm seeing. There's subjects moving rapidly at the base surface, clashing with one another. Smoky type of environment, hard to see, hard to breathe, and the smell is just super metallic. And in that image, you can kind of see, it feels like 2 groups, but they're just clashing. There's dead subjects, there's activity, there's movement, there's chaos. Yeah, but they do feel like 2 separate groups here that are doing this fighting. So if I move to group 1, and do like a collective deep mind probe of group 1, feels like crippling fear. The subjects here feel like they aren't really thinking. They're just driven by their need to survive. And some are feeling regret, like they don't want to be here. This is a terrible place to be. When I move to the other group 2 here, and do the same collective deep mind probe, subjects are high on adrenaline, also driven by the need to survive. They feel manic and they feel wild, and they literally feel insane. This is not sane, what is happening here. So in one side, the subjects are like, oh, I don't want to be here. I'm really regretting being, whatever that's gotten me to this point. On the other side, they just like feel wild, like wild animals. That was the end of the session.
Wow. Okay, so that is a lot of really interesting data. You ready to hear what the target is?
Yeah, what is this terrible, terrible things that are happening?
Okay, so this is the post-election U.S. military domestic engagement.
No!
Here you go.
Take it back. I don't want to know what it is.
All right, so that was really fascinating in the sense that we now are getting a sense of what's going to happen in this chaos that we've been perceiving for quite some time after this presidential election. So focus one was basically December 2024. You had a little bit of sort of police-looking actions, subjects with weapons, or you deducted a weapon, and other subjects in focused gatherings, and this idea of subjects on podiums and stuff like that. That was really interesting, seemed very political, a little tense in the environment, but very political stuff. That was basically the target event there is the most important event that would describe the level of domestic engagement of the United States military in December of 2024. And focus two, things seems to start heating up. It seems to get a little bit more violent, and that was January 2025. And focus three is when you're seeing what looks like to be literal warfare in February of 2025. Now, we don't know the scale of things. We also don't know how these things would be reported. I mean, there's plenty of stuff that happens domestically in the United States that would be incredibly shocking for the civilian public to see and hear, and that's just not what's reported in the news. We get weird sort of covert cover stories. We get all sorts of... just because an explosive energetic happens doesn't necessarily we'll know for sure that this was a hostile engagement in our neck of the woods. Sometimes that might be just described as sort of a freak thing by a vigilante or something like that. So we don't know how this is actually going to be reported on, but we do know from the remote viewing that things seem to be ubiquitously chaotic and violent as this election happens and as we move into the year 2025. So really intense session, and unfortunately seems to match a theme across all of the remote viewers going into this target.
Ooh, this is not good.
Well, you never know. It's
change your timeline. Change it.
Well, just because we're seeing violence doesn't necessarily give a sense of the scope, how widespread it is, if it's really going to be reported on honestly. We don't know if it's if this type of thing is going to be in every major city across the United States. It could be in very isolated pockets. We also don't know exactly who the sides are in these experiences. There could be some loophole ways where the idea of domestic engagement might not be as pigeonholed as our minds would like to imagine the worst case scenario to be. So we don't know. We don't know what the sides are. We don't know if this is very isolated small incidences that are not going to be reported to the public. So it's a good question. We just see intense violence between groups that seem to have the equipment to call themselves a militarized body.
Right.
So yeah, really intense, really interesting, and whether or not this type of stuff ends up being reported on openly and openly discussed in the mainstream public, it's important through remote viewing to be aware that this seems to be part of the tumult that is going to happen after the election that's going to happen in 2 weeks after recording this. So
God damn.
Yeah, that'll be the start of everything.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope it's not extensive, but even as small as it is, this leads to disruption of people's lives. And it's just doesn't seem fair. It just doesn't seem fair for like people who want nothing to do with violence or anything like this. They obviously get affected. You know, these decisions come from a select group of people who want to cause issues, kind of like on this last page, these two groups. This one group is absolutely insane. You know, the other group is like, oh, we engaged in this and I'm kind of regretting it, but still, what actions of a few impact a lot at the end of the day, and it's just sucks that it has to be that way.
Yeah, well, only time will tell to see how deeply this impacts the lives of the average everyday American.
Yeah.
So it might be something that we just hear stories about, limited engagement stories, maybe not even completely honest stories about, and we only get a sense of the fringes of what is going on, and it might be something that's just in everyone's faces constantly. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of crazy stuff has happened in the world, and for the most part, it ends up being a mental stress in the minds of most people, and their physical actions don't exactly change. They still go to work, they still get groceries at the same time. It's just they're thinking about new things because that's on the news. New things are on the news. So time will tell if this actually disrupts that type of process in life. But regardless, the year 2025 definitely seems like an interesting one.
Stay safe, everyone.
Stay safe, everybody. Yeah, so any other concluding questions or comments?
No.
All right, well, really great remote viewing session. Let's see what happens in the end of 2024 and then going into 2025. And thank you very much, Intysam, and thank you everybody else for watching.